following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and welcome to News 9. I'm Verghese Abraham. First up, a lot of developments on the Israel-Hamas war front. Let's take you through the latest developments on the 53rd day of the war. Let's give you the big story right now. Israel and Hamas has extended the truce for 2 more days. This is after that has been called by several groups and also Israel's allies asking for the extension of the truce. So Israel and Hamas have extended their truce. United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres welcomes the truce extension that has happened. United Nations has also been asking for relief material to be given in during the truce extension in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State will be traveling to Israel this week. It is expected to hold high-level meetings with Israeli authorities as well as its leadership. Meanwhile, Israeli military has said that it will fight with stronger force once combat resumes. Israel says that the pause in the fighting shouldn't be taken as a sign of weakness, but only for humanitarian reasons. But the war with Hamas will continue. Meanwhile, 40 trucks carrying humanitarian aid has reached Gaza City right now, and more are on its way. There are at least 200 trucks that are lined up at the border crossing in Rafah. They said that these trucks will be let in only after the inspections are carried on with it. Meanwhile, the death toll is now 14,854 Palestinians, including 6,150 children, were killed in the Gaza offensive. The extension of the truce is something that has been asked for by several international organizations, and one of the things that has come to light is that the extension is said to have resulted in humanitarian forces helping the people in Gaza to move from conflict zones. Meanwhile, Qatar managed to successfully extend the 4-day truce between Israeli troops and Hamas forces in Gaza by 2 days on Monday, November 27th. Now, Qatar, along with Egypt, has been mediating the ceasefire through indirect negotiations in the region that has been ravaged by war since the past 7 weeks. Now, hundreds of Gazans hurried to grab food from United Nations relief rations that were handed over to them on Monday. Many of them recounted poor living conditions that they expect to worsen if the war resumes. The ceasefire agreement reached last week is the first pause since Hamas attacked Israel, killing 1,200 people and releasing 240 captives. Take a look at this report.
A deal to extend a truce between Israeli troops and Hamas forces in Gaza by 2 days was agreed on Monday. That's according to mediator Qatar, which has been facilitating indirect negotiations between the two sides with Egypt. The agreement lengthens a 4-day ceasefire after 7 weeks of warfare, which has seen thousands killed and laid waste to the Palestinian enclave. Hamas also confirmed the extension. There was no immediate comment from Israel. The release of 11 more Israeli hostages seized by Hamas during its October 7th assault on southern Israel was confirmed on Monday. As dozens of Gazans rushed to get supplies from aid rations distributed by the UN on Monday, many described the dire living conditions that they expect to worsen if war resumes. Raider Mohammed Jamal al-Jabouri is one of them.
We wish that the truce would be permanent and people would go back to their lives and to see each other. People have lost their families and relatives, and we are not able to reach our families. We don't know who we lost and who is still alive. We are coming here to try and get some clothes for our children because we left everything in our house. Children are wearing summer clothes. This is not right. God willing, the truce will be extended and will stay in place. We don't want more war. This is enough. This is so tough on us.
On Sunday, Hamas freed 17 Israelis, including a 4-year-old Israeli-American girl. and Israel freed 39 teenage Palestinian prisoners. The truce, agreed last week, is the first halt in fighting since Hamas attacked Israel, when 1,200 people were killed and 240 hostages were taken back into Gaza. In Jerusalem, Israeli Anat Errol is also advocating for a pause in fighting.
I'm against all violence, and I really hope that there will be ceasefire, and I really hope that it will continue to be ceasefire, because violence is not a solution for anything. I mean, I know that those terrorists are like horrible, like they are. I can't even say they need to, of course, personally they need to be punished, but not all the other people in Gaza need to be punished.
In response to the October 7th attack, Israel has bombarded the Gaza Strip and mounted a ground offensive in the north. As of Monday, Gaza health authorities say some 14,800 Palestinians have been killed. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced.
An Israel-Hamas truce in the Gaza Strip stretched into the fifth day as the two sides completed the release of Israeli hostages and detained Palestinians under their original ceasefire deal and appeared to be poised for freeing more hostages. Now, Israel on Monday said that 11 Israelis had returned to the country from the Gaza Strip, bringing to 69 the total number of Israelis and foreign hostages that the Islamist Palestinian group Hamas has freed since Friday under the 4-day truce. Now, Hamas took some 240 hostages during the October 7th incursion into southern Israel that killed 1,200 people, now, according to Israeli figures, prompting Israel to retaliate by bombing the coastal enclave and launching a ground offensive in its north. Now, the Israel Prison Service said that 33 Palestinian prisoners were released on Monday after Israel's offer. Now, the prison in West Bank is where all the attention is, as the detentions are more in that particular prison, and it is in the center in Jerusalem. Now, this has brought the total number of Palestinians to be freed since Friday to 150. Israeli forces clashed with some of the dozens of Palestinians who had gathered outside of a prison near Ramallah in occupied West Bank to await the release of Palestinian prisoners. The Palestinian Health Ministry said some of the protesters waved the flags of Hamas and Islamic Jihad, another Palestinian terrorist group. Now, the ministry said a Palestinian was killed in the area and that it was unclear if he had participated in the clashes. Palestinians media reported he was shot dead. Israel had no immediate comment on the incident. In response to the October 7th attack, Israel had bombed the Gaza Strip and mounted ground offensive in the north. More than 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in this. Gaza's Hamas-run government says, and hundreds of thousands have been displaced. Qatar, which along with Egypt had facilitated indirect talks between the two sides, said that there was an agreement to extend by 2 days the original 4-day truce that was to expire on Monday, and which they have extended it right now. The United Nations Relief Agency, UNRWA, said it's seeking to deliver aid into Gaza. Gaza, as the truce between Hamas and Israel is being extended. Now, trucks carrying aid and ambulances were seen lined up and moving. UNRWA officials said that they are waiting for clearance to go through the Israeli-controlled zone. Now, the truce agreed last week is the first halt in fighting in the 7 weeks since Hamas attacked Israel, killing 1,200 people and taking about 240 hostages back into Gaza. Now, along the roads near Gaza City, dozens of displaced Palestinians headed south, carrying their belongings as they tried to find food and shelter. Many Palestinians were on foot, walking amongst the rubble and mudded roads, while military tanks could be seen in the distance. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced from their homes in the north of Gaza City and the Gaza Strip region, and this started from the war that took place from October 7th onwards. Israel has told displaced Gazans not to attempt to return to the northern part of Gaza Strip as the intense fighting and military offensive is taking place in that particular region. Many neighborhoods of Gaza have been completely reduced to rubble, and the northern part of Gaza is said to be completely in ruins. Many of the residents have already left the place, and some of them have headed down south, but there is worry that this offensive could lead to the complete occupation of northern Gaza. Gazans have used the truce between Hamas and Israel to take a breather by the beach. Now, after 7 weeks of continuous war, the truce that was agreed last week is the first halt in the fighting in the 7 weeks since Hamas attacked Israel, killing 1,200 people and taking about 240 hostages back into Gaza. The response to that attack, Israel had bombarded the enclave and mounted a ground offensive in the north. Some 14,800 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, as health authorities reveal, and hundreds and thousands of them have been displaced. Many of them have come to the beaches to move away from their ruined neighborhoods. Many of them say that their homes have been completely destroyed and their livelihoods have also been destroyed. A handful of protesters have braved the rain in Jerusalem to call on the United Nations to speak up about women they say were subjected to sexual violence by Hamas. Hamas terrorists had picked up several captives from southern Israel on October 7th. They demonstrated in front of the UN building in Jerusalem as Israel was holding a meeting at the Geneva headquarters to raise awareness of Hamas's sexual violence. Growing evidence is emerging that points to sexual crimes during the most deadly attack on Israel in its history, such as victims found disrobed and mutilated. Israeli authorities have opened an investigation into sexual violence perpetrated during the Hamas attack, including rape.
לא מבינים באמת, מפסיקות לשתוק, מפסיקים לשתוק. אתם שותקים.
A mother and 3 children who were held captive for 52 days by Palestinian terrorist group Hamas were reunited with their husband and father in Israel after their release. The 4 hostages were brought to the Schneider Children's Medical Center for checkups and treatment. The family has photographed as they were reunited with Avikai Broads. On the morning of October 7th, Hamas terrorists had attacked the kibbutz of Kwar Aza, and Avikai Broads placed his wife Hagar and 3 children in a safe room before going out to defend their home and community. When he returned, Hagar and 4-year-old Uriah, 8-year-old Yuval and 10-year-old Ofri, together with a family friend, 4-year-old Abigail Eden, had disappeared. They were taken by the Hamas militants and held hostage with more than 200 others in Gaza. The 4 Broads family members, together with Israeli-American Abigail Eden, was returned to Israel under a temporary ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The Israeli military released a video set to show Gaza-bound aid trucks at a border crossing with Egypt. In an accompanying statement posted on Telegram, the Israeli military said that there are 200 such trucks and they would undergo an inspection first before heading to Egypt's Rafah border crossing, through which humanitarian aid into Gaza is being delivered. 42 of those trucks were loaded with shelter equipment. Separately, an official said that Israel would allow a dramatic increase in aid to Gaza in the coming days, calling on Palestinian civilians to head to what he described as a humanitarian zone in the south of the territory. These are the visuals of the trucks that were lined up at the Rafah crossing. Hundreds of trucks had lined up, but Israel says that it will allow the aid trucks only after inspection. Most of the aid trucks carry material for shelter, especially as winter approaches in the area. Many of the women say that their children are wearing summer clothes and the required clothing to protect themselves from the harsh winter. Meanwhile, aid has been pouring in from the United Nations as well as from other Arab countries surrounding the region. This particular visual was taken from Nizana crossing, where trucks were seen lined up completely to get inspected and then to be given the permit to move into Gaza. These are the visuals that show the 8 trucks that have been moved into the location, and this is at the Nitsania crossing, where hundreds of 8 trucks after inspection are being allowed into Gaza. Terrorist organizations are increasingly engaging with the crypto sector and exploiting developments in blockchain technology in order to raise funds and evade detection from the authorities. The use of cryptocurrency in terror financing and funding terrorist groups come under scrutiny after Hamas' deadly attack on Israel. Cryptocurrency's role in terror financing came under renewed scrutiny after Hamas's attack on Israel. Counterterrorism finance efforts often focus on the tracking of money and preventing financial transactions. Cryptocurrency manages to bypass this by offering anonymity, and more security regulation and oversight of cryptocurrency is more difficult. Now, the blockchain technology ensures an instant payment system across borders. Israel claims that it has seized multiple cryptocurrency linked to the Hamas. A new cryptocurrency called Tron, which is cheaper and quicker than Bitcoin, has come into the spotlight in terror financing linkages. Now, what we understand is that a new front has emerged in Israel's fight against Hamas and Hezbollah with regards to Tron. Tron is the new cheaper cryptocurrency which is favored by terror groups over Bitcoin. Reports are saying that Tron wallets are major targets of crypto seizures by Israel and US agencies. Israel's counter-terror financing unit seized 143 Tron wallets between 2021 and 2023. Reports also indicate that two-thirds of Israel's Tron seizures belong to Islamic Jihad and Hamas, as well as with regards to Hezbollah. Iran has also previously used Tron to skirt US sanctions. Reports are saying that the Financial Action Task Force, TITA, transfers on Tron provide increasing donor anonymity. Elon Musk toured with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on ruins of Israeli kibbutz of Kfar Aza near the border with Gaza. Israel hosted Elon Musk, saying it had reached an agreement in principle for using his SpaceX company's Starlink communications in the Gaza Strip, where a pause to the war against Hamas coincided with the tech entrepreneur's visit. Musk's office has yet to comment on the trip. Netanyahu discussed with Musk the security aspects of artificial intelligence and hold a live online discussion. That is what the Netanyahu's office has said after a meeting with Elon Musk.
Shells, specifically of a Negev, that was used.
Moving on to developments that are closer home, on 12th November, 41 labourers got trapped on portions of the Israel-Hamas Tunnel Collapse following the landslide. It has been 17 days since the Uttarkashi Tunnel collapsed and the stranded workers continue to remain trapped. 2 weeks into the incident, rescue operations is underway to save the trapped workers. Let's take a look at some of the important aspects of what's happening. Rescuers are now resorting to the old method of rat hole mining. This is what reports are saying. Rescue workers are carrying out 36 meters of vertical boring. Vertical drilling encounters water underground and dewatering is being carried out. 1 meter of the manual drilling completed last night is what the reports are saying. Prime Minister Modi saying that he is praying for the safety of the 41 trapped workers. Scientists and other experts on the site to help in the rescue operations. No involvement in Uttarakhand tunnel construction is Adani Group saying in its statement. In the latest update from Uttarkashi Tunnel, rescuers have resorted to rat hole mining technique to evacuate 41 trapped workers. This step was taken following the failure of the heavy auger machine to drill through the rubble to create an escape passage for them. According to reports, at least 12 experts have been called in at the Silkiara Tunnel in Uttarkashi by Trenchless Engineering Services Private Limited and Navayoga Engineers Private Limited to apply the rat hole mining technique horizontally in the collapsed part of the main structure. Meanwhile, vertical drilling to rescue the trapped workers in the collapsed section of Uttarkashi Tunnel is currently underway. 36 meters of vertical boring have been carried out and a total of 86 meters is required. Vertical drilling encountered water underground and dewatering has carried out. Meanwhile, reports are also coming in suggesting that 1 meter of manual drilling was completed last night and the pipe has been pushed by 1 meter. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also asked people to pray for the safety of the miners.
Sir, what is the progress?
Okay, I'll give you a quick soundbite and then you leave me alone, okay? So they've gone very well last night. They've just crossed 50 meters. It's about, let's say it's about 5 or 6 meters to go. They're just putting another pipe in, so we're expecting some good results later today.
Sir, we have crossed 50 meters. It is very big achievement.
It is, yes, very big.
So how much left?
We think probably another pipe 6 meters.
5-6 meters only left?
Yes.
So how much time it will take to reach 5-6 meters? Total 57 meters?
It depends on the ground, but we haven't had any obstacles last night. And it's looking very positive sometime today.
कि जो हमारा ओगर का पार्ट फंसा हुआ था उसको निकालने के बाद में जो 1.9 मीटर काटा था उसके अंदर 3 किश्तों में सबसे पहले 220 पुश किया गया तो वो हो गया। वो जो सबसे बड़ा क्रिटिकल पार्ट था कि कहीं लगभग 2.5 दिन से ज्यादा हो गया है, जो पाइप है उसको कहीं शेप लेकर के थोड़ा सा जिसको कहते हैं सेटिंग ना हो गया और आगे पुश ना हो पाए, जिसके लिए चिंता थी कि हमें और अल्टरनेट पे जाना पड़ सकता, तो अभी संभवतः नहीं जाना पड़ेगा। उसके बाद 500 पुश किया गया। मतलब जैसे आप पूछ भी रहे थे कि भाई जो रेट माइनस टेक्निक क्या होती है, मतलब जो भी है दे नॉट रेट माइनस बट रेट माइनस टेक्निक बोली जाती है कि वो क्लियर करते हैं। उन्होंने पार्ट क्लियर किया, क्लियर करके फिर पुश किया। तो जैसे पहले गो में 220 पुश किया गया, यानी आप समझ सकते हैं 0.22 मीटर। फिर सेकंड गो के अंदर जो क्लियर किया उन्होंने क्लियर करके 500 पुश हुआ, यानी 0.5 मीटर। उसके बाद थर्ड गो के अंदर फिर जैसे उन्होंने थोड़ा सा क्लियर किया तो 200 मतलब 0.2 मीटर फिर पुश हो पाया। सो इस टाइप से ये लगभग पिछले 2 घंटे में, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है कि यही स्पीड रहेगी। जैसे जो 500 में पुश किया गया तो आप समझ सकते हैं कि पुश करने में उसमें सिर्फ 5 मिनट लगे। वो 500 पुश करने में अराउंड 5.5 मिनट्स का टाइम लगा मशीन को, लेकिन उसके आगे का मक हटाना, उसके आगे अब जैसे हो सकता है कि आगे की जैसे पिक्चर आप लोगों ने कुछ देखी है, सरिये और डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ जो गर्डल स्ट्रक्चर, कुछ और चीजें आ जाती हैं, पाइप्स हैं, उसको काटने में, उसको क्लियर करने में हो सकता है 1 मीटर में 4 घंटे भी लग जाए, हो सकता है कि 1 मीटर में आधा घंटा भी लगे, हो सकता है 5 घंटे भी लग जाए। तो जो आप लोग कह रहे थे वो काम स्टार्ट हो गया है। मैनुअल प्लस पुशिंग वाला जो है ना, मतलब बेसिकली आप ये समझिए कि काम स्टार्ट उसमें ये हो गया है कि क्लियर करते हैं हाथ से, तो मैनुअली हाथ से क्लियर करके उसको अगर कहीं भी दिक्कत आती है उसको मशीन से, अभी बीच में छोटे सरिये थे तो उनको काट दिया गया। तो इट विल वर्क लाइक दिस, जैसे थोड़ा थोड़ा चलता रहेगा, लेकिन इसके अंदर कोई एक स्पीड, कोई एक समय सीमा, जैसे आप लोगों के फिर सवाल होंगे, ऐसा कुछ नहीं बताया जा सकता। लेकिन लेट्स प्रे एंड लेट्स होप कि जितनी जल्दी हो सके उतनी कम कठिनाई है और हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा जल्दी इसको कर पाए।
से अब तक काफी प्रोग्रेस हुई है। जो मेन हॉरिजॉन्टल अप्रोच हमारा सिलक्यारा से हो रहा था, सिलक्यारा एंड से हो रहा था, उसके अंदर जो फंसा हुआ मलबा था और फंसा हुआ टूटा टुकड़ा था जो हमारे ऑगर का, उसको हटा दिया गया है। और अब उम्मीद कर रहे हैं कि शाम को मैनुअल ड्रिफ्ट तरीके से मैनुअल प्रोबिंग शुरू होगी। तकरीबन 15 मीटर का फासला है, जिसमें 2 टीमें, 3-3 की टीम होंगी जो मैनुअली और कुछ पावर टूल्स के साथ इसको खुदाई करके और इस रास्ते को बनाएंगे। बाकी जो ऊपर वर्टिकल वाला है उसमें कल 15 मीटर तक का डेप्थ हमको हासिल हुआ था, आज 30 से 32 मीटर हासिल हो गया है और उसमें अभी तक कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। साथ में उसी के नज़दीक एक प्रोब और हो रहा है वर्टिकल, जो कि 6 से 8 इंच का है। वो अल्टरनेटिव लाइफलाइन बनाई जा रही है, वो तकरीबन अब 76 मीटर पहुंच गई है नीचे और कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुआ उसको। तो उससे अंदेशा लगाया जा सकता है हमारा कि जो हमारा ये बड़ा वाला जो एक 1.2 मीटर का जो की जो डिगिंग हो रही है, वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग हो रही है, उसमें भी शायद कोई हमें प्रॉब्लम ना खड़ा हो आगे। बाकी जो दिशाएं हैं, पीछे बरकोत की तरफ से ब्लास्टिंग तो जारी है, मगर वो तरीका थोड़ा धीरे चलता है। तकरीबन 12 मीटर वहाँ पर प्रोग्रेस हो गया है, मगर जो ये साइड का जो परपेंडिकुलर वाला था उसका इक्विपमेंट अभी तक नहीं पहुँचा है। दोनों गाड़ियाँ जो इक्विपमेंट ला रही हैं, बड़ी बड़ी गाड़ियाँ हैं और बड़ा बड़ा इक्विपमेंट है, वो तकरीबन 20 किलोमीटर और 40 किलोमीटर दूर हैं अभी सिलक्यारा से। और ओएनजीसी का जो ऊपर से शुरू होना है वो भी थोड़ा अभी वक्त लगेगा। तो 3 जगह तो ये काम जारी है, जिसमें से 2 काम तो काफ़ी रिलायबल हैं, एक टॉप डाउन ड्रिलिंग और एक ये जो अब हॉरिजॉन्टल जो अब हैंड ऑगर के हैंड टूल्स के ज़रिए जो डिगिंग की जाएगी।
Well, with large metal pieces hindering the machine drilling and breaking the auger, the rescuers are now planning to drill through the remaining few meters using the practice of rat hole mining. Jhansi resident Prasad Lodi, a rat hole miner who arrived in Salkira to aid in the rescue operation, said that he would enter the rescue pipes and use handheld tools to dig through the remaining debris, blocking the exit to the tunnel. Let's take a look at what rat hole mining is all about. Rat hole mining is a method of extracting coal from narrow horizontal seams. Now, the term rat hole refers to narrow pits dug into the ground. Pits are just large enough for a person to descend and extract coal. Once the pits are dug, miners descend using ropes to reach the coal seams. Coal is then manually extracted using primitive tools such as pickaxes, shovels and baskets. Rat hole mining poses significant safety and environmental hazards as well. Mines are typically unregulated, lacking safety measures, can cause land degradation, deforestation and also water pollution. The National Green Tribunal banned rat mining in 2014 and retained the ban in 2015. NGT noted numerous instances of water flooding into mining areas during rainy season, resulting in the deaths of many, including employees and workers involved in coal mining. Ban was particularly directed towards rat hole mining in Meghalaya. Government of Meghalaya appealed to the NGT order in the Supreme Court. My colleague Nivriti Mohan was at the location and she tries to get us a picture of how they plan to go ahead with the rescue operations, with multiple options being explored.
Let me show you what is happening at the site right now. You can see, if my camera person can zoom in and show you how there is some kind of a layout that has been displayed at the site outside the tunnel on the face of Silkyara tunnel. You can see a layout kind of a thing, the design of the tunnel and how the various methods through which they are going to approach. So in front of the layout that is being displayed, you can see army personnel out there and some workers also. I think some sort of briefing is going on about how to approach and the design of the tunnel and the methods through which they are going to approach inside the tunnel. So if you can zoom in a little bit more, you can see the vertical drilling thing is also being shown, I think, but not very clearly visible. But there is something, some kind of briefing going on there, and there is a discussion happening there how to approach. Now you can see, let me talk about another option that is being explored and army will be doing it. The horizontal drilling that is going on inside the tunnel and where the auger machine is struck. Exactly parallel to that, another method inside the tunnel from this side only. Another method is also being tried, that is drift tunnel by manual semi-mechanized method by the joint team of THDCL Army and Coal India and NHIDCL. So what they are doing, you can see those sections, the concrete sections over there. So these are the things that will be used to make that passage. So what is happening is there is a drift design. So it is a drift technology. So there is a drift design which is completed, and it is as you can see the sections, it is 1.2 meters by 1.5 meters section. Each section is of about 1.2 meters by 1.5 meters, and material is available at site right now as told to us by the authorities. Fabrication has started, and it started on 21st of November and it was done by army welders. So 18 numbers of frames were fabricated as per the information received yesterday. So these kind of frames are being made and they will be placed. I think they will be doing it manually, and then army will be doing it. These sections will be placed one by one, and then a tunnel through these sections is tried to be made. They are trying to make a tunnel through these sections. So you can see the size will be this much as the section 1.2 meters by 1.5 meters. So this is another technology, this is another option that is being explored by the army, and our army is deployed to work on this section.
My colleague Nivriti Mohan spoke to relatives of the trapped workers to understand their ordeal and how they were coping with the current situation. Let's take a look.
वो पता चला यहाँ जो मेस में खाना बना रहा है, तो एक काम तो कैसे 2-3 बार कर यहाँ से गया है घर पर, फिर आता था तो बताकर नहीं आता था कि हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं। जब आ जाता था तब बताता था कि हम पहुँच गए हैं। तो पहले जब बात हमने की तो हमने ये कहा कैसे हो बेटे, जो भी बात करेगा तो यही कहेगा। तो कहने लगा हम ठीक हैं, और हम कहने खाना उना की व्यवस्था आप घबराते तो नहीं, खाना पीना पाते हो? कहला हाँ पाते हैं पापा। घबराते तो नहीं, घबराना मत बेटे, एक दूसरे जितने लोग हो टीम साथ में एक हंसकर जीना है, जंग लड़के बाहर निकलना, घबराना नहीं बेटे। कहला नहीं पापा, हारने वाले में के हम नहीं हैं। कहने लगा और ठीक है सबका हाल चाल? हम कहें ठीक है। आप कहा खाना पीना खाए रहना? हमने कहा बेटा आप खाना पीना खाए रहना, हम सब बने रहना, हिम्मत मत हारना, काम जारी है, चल रहा है। सरियों का झुंड लोहे का आगे पड़ गया है, गाटर वगैरह, तो वो काटने में समय बीत रहा है। वो सब जब कट के साफ हो जाएगा, जहाँ साफ हुआ तहाँ बाहर हो जाओगे।
मेरे अंदर भाई फंसे हुए हैं जिनका नाम सबा अहमद है। यहाँ कंपनी में वो सीनियर फोरमैन के पोस्ट पे हैं। मेरे से पर डे उनसे बातचीत होती है, 2-3 बार 4 बार बात होती है। वो लोग सब अंदर में बढ़िया से हैं, लोग मज़े से हैं, कोई तरह का अंदर में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। हर चीज़ खाने पीने का अवेलेबल है, बाहर से भेजा जा रहा है। कोई तरह का जो भी उधर से वो लोग रिक्वायर कर रहे हैं वो सामान इधर से भेज दिया जा रहा है। मैं यहाँ 13 तारीख को आया हूँ, 13 तारीख से अभी तक मैं पर डे कॉन्टेक्ट में हूँ। इस तरह का तो कभी हादसा मैं देखा नहीं हूँ। और जो हादसा हुआ है इसमें सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट भी है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट भी है, सब शामिल है। जो भी बाहर से भी टीम आई है, बहुत एक्सपर्ट सारे लोग आए हुए हैं। ये लोग सब एकजुट होकर के कंपनी के साथ काम कर रहे हैं। ये बहुत बड़ी बात है, ये बहुत खुशी की बात है।
उम्मीद भी होती है
सब लोगों को यही उम्मीद लगा हुआ है कि जितना जल्दी हो सके वो लोग 41 आदमी बाहर निकाल लें। वो सब घर के बारे में, सब फैमिली वाले लोगों के बारे में पूछ रहे थे, सब लोग के बारे में बता दिए कि सब लोग बढ़िया से है, कोई तरह के किसी को ये नहीं है, तुम अपना बढ़िया से रहो, तुम्हारे को कोई टेंशन ना लेना है। जो भी है यहाँ से कंपनी जो भी हो रहा है जितना जल्दी है तुम्हारे लोग को बाहर निकालने का प्रयास कर रही है और बहुत जल्दी आप लोग बाहर आ जाओगे। मगर ये भी अपने भाई को बोला हूँ कि जितना भी लोग हैं सब लोगों को मिला के चलो, सब लोगों को हौसला दो कि हौसला नहीं हारना है और जितना जल्दी है आप लोगों को बाहर निकालना। सेहत के बारे में बोला, सबकी सेहत ठीक है, किसी को कोई तरह का ऐसे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, सब लोग बढ़िया से रह रहे हैं।
The EC asked Telangana government to stop the disbursement of financial aid to farmers under the Raitu Bandhu scheme, citing violation of poll code after State Minister made public remarks on the initiative. Now launched in 2018, the Raitu Bandhu scheme gives cash grants of Rs 5,000 an acre for a crop season to enable farmers to meet contingencies and augment agricultural production. The EC gave no objection to the Telangana government for the disbursements of financial aid to farmers for growing their rabi crops during October-January period under certain conditions. Now, the state government has asked by the poll body not to publicize the disbursement after the MCC came into existence. However, the BRS has now decided to go ahead and challenge the EC's order. It has asked the EC to rethink on the disbursement of the Raitu Bandhu scheme, as it is crucial for several farmers in the state.
Today, Telangana farmers have realized that Congress party has been time and again complaining to Election Commission of India for an ongoing program in which in last 10 seasons we have disbursed about 72,000 crores to 65 lakh farmers across Telangana. It was not a program that was announced in our last election manifesto. It was not a program related to election at all. But then Congress party time and again, who is threatened that the vote bank of entire farmers of Telangana is with BRS party, is trying to trouble the farmers of Telangana. This is going to work extremely against Congress, and we also request and pray to all farmers of Telangana to realize that it is Congress party who is delaying the Raitu Bandhu payment, not BRS party, and it is the Congress party which is delaying the loan waiver payment, not BRS party. So Election Commission of India first gave the permission, then again Congress party went and complained, then they stopped the payment. It was a regular ongoing government program. It is not related to a party, but yet threatened by the success of the BRS party, threatened by the love that BRS party enjoys of the farmers of Telangana, Congress party has complained and stalled the Raitu Bandhu payment, which is really unfortunate.
Well, the global community grapples with the urgent need to combat climate change. All eyes are on the upcoming COP28 UN Climate Summit set to unfold in Dubai from November 30th to December 12th. Take a look.
Each country has its own agenda for the nearly 200 nations gathering at COP28 in Dubai. And finding consensus is a challenge, as UN climate negotiations need unanimous support to pass. Here are some of the climate summit's main players and what they're looking for. China, the world leader in both clean and dirty energy. It's responsible for 30% of annual global emissions, making it the world's biggest greenhouse gas emitter. but it also has more renewable energy capacity than anywhere else. China has been feeling the impacts of climate change through heat waves, floods, and extreme drought. Despite having the world's second largest economy after the US, it sees itself as a developing nation in climate talks and argues wealthy, developed nations like the US should move first and fastest in policy and finance. It's part of the bloc of basic countries alongside South Africa, Brazil, and India, who argue the same. The United States is the world's second largest emitter. It comes to COP28 a year into rolling out a $369 billion plus subsidy package for electric vehicles and other green products. Its Inflation Reduction Act is expected to triple the country's clean energy capacity by 2030. But U.S. delegates will face pressure at COP28 after Washington pledged no new climate cash to the United Nations this year. It supports a COP28 deal to phase out CO2-emitting fossil fuel use, despite being the world's biggest oil and gas producer. The 27-country European Union is among the most ambitious. The bloc, along with the U.S., is pushing to triple renewable capacity. It also aims to end new coal-fueled power plants, phase out fossil fuels, and power electricity grids with renewable sources in the 2030s. African countries are pushing for climate finance to speed up green energy projects. But not everyone's on the same page. Some, like Kenya, Ethiopia, and Senegal, have backed calls for phasing out fossil fuel production. Others, like Mozambique, want to develop their reserve of gas to capitalize off European gas demands. But they do agree that any deal on phasing out fossil fuels must allow poor nations to develop reserves in the short term to alleviate energy poverty.
Well, delegates at this year's United Nations COP28 Climate Summit are eager to enhance the global climate change agenda by devising concrete strategies to tackle the second most prevalent greenhouse gas, methane. Take a look.
COP28 is putting a spotlight on methane, the world's second most prominent greenhouse gas. While it has more warming potential than carbon dioxide, methane also breaks down in the atmosphere faster, meaning reining in emissions could have a more immediate impact in limiting climate change. What is needed now is to turn pledges into urgent action, according to the United Arab Emirates COP28 presidency. Here's what you need to know. More than 150 countries signed onto the US and EU-led Global Methane Pledge in 2021. They promised to slash their methane emissions 30% below 2020 levels by the end of the decade. Few have detailed how they will achieve this. The EU has agreed to set methane emission limits on Europe's oil and gas imports from 2030. The US is finalizing its own rules. Canada, meanwhile, is expected to target the sector with a proposal requiring a 70% cut in methane emissions by 2030, sources told Reuters. China, the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, has pledged to include methane in the country's 2035 National Climate Plan. The World Bank is in the process of launching a new fund, with backing from independent oil companies, among others. It would sponsor detection and cleanup programs in developing countries. Some oil and gas companies are already participating in voluntary programs to monitor or reduce their emissions. COP28 host, the United Arab Emirates, wants to see national regulations over methane-emitting sectors and financial support for developing countries. It is also calling on the oil and gas industry to phase out its methane emissions by 2030. Climate experts say getting companies and countries to commit to a binding agreement is key. Last year's methane emissions from the energy industry were slightly higher than the year before.
A report from United Nations Climate Science Agency highlights crucial actions required this decade to contain global warming within a 1.5 degrees centigrade limit. Despite persistent warnings about climate change, emissions have surged to record highs, jeopardizing the goals set in the 2015 Paris Agreement. The summer of 2023 marked the hottest on record, amplifying the urgency of the climate crisis. Data from the European Union Climate Change Service revealed this alarming trend in September 2023, with nearly half of the global population highly susceptible to climate-related impacts like floods, heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and storms. The need for immediate action is now being critical. Looking ahead, projections suggest that over 1.6 billion urban residents will regularly endure scorching 3-month average temperatures exceeding 35 degrees by the 2050s. These forecasts paint a dire picture of the world's vulnerability to climate change, emphasizing the pressing need for a comprehensive measure to combat its effects. Alarming findings from the IPCC reports highlight the grim fate of facing coral reefs as global temperatures rise a mere 1.5 degrees centigrade. Increasing above the pre-industrial levels could lead to a devastating decline of over 70% of these vital marine ecosystems. Now, the situation worsens at 2 degrees centigrade warming, with scientists predicting a catastrophic loss of 99% of the coral reefs, causing irreparable damage to the marine food web. Now, the acceleration of greenhouse gas emissions from continued reliance on oil, gas and coal is propelling the world closer to critical climate tipping points. As COP28 approaches in Dubai, the United Nations emphasizes urgent action, urging governments to swiftly ditch fossil fuels and align with agreement's goals. On Monday, a toxic haze blanketed Pakistan's second-largest city, Lahore, which topped the list of world's most polluted cities, according to the Swiss organization IQ Air. The city held the top rank on the real-time list of the world's most polluted cities on Monday, with an air quality index of 353, putting its air quality in the hazardous category.
हर साल स्मोक होती है, तो फसलें जलाई जाती हैं, भट्टे जल रहे हैं, सब कुछ होता है और इन्हें पता भी होता है। उसके मुताबिक उसका कोई प्लान बनाए। हमारे इदारे तनख्वाह लेते हैं और उस पर काम करना चाहिए। उनके मुताबिक जब ये मौसम आए, हर साल आता है, तो उन पर कोई ना कोई उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करे ताकि स्मोक रुक जाए। ट्रांसपोर्ट रोकने से या ताजरों को रोकने से कुछ भी नहीं होगा।
Authorities reported a massive snowstorm with strong winds covering Ukraine on Monday, knocking out power in over 2,000 villages across 16 regions and closing more than a dozen highways. The severe weather comes while tens of thousands of troops are stationed at the front lines of the 21-month-old war with Russia, and there are fears that Moscow may target the power grid with airstrikes this winter. Take a look at this report. On a diminishing coastal stretch in southeast Ivory Coast, local residents are steadfastly confronting encroaching waves, deploying thousands of sandbags in a bid to thwart the advancing sea, an ongoing struggle shadowed by the daunting prospect of rising costs. According to United Nations climate experts, the toll of damages from sea level rise could skyrocket to 86.5 billion by 2050 for a dozen major African coastal cities. The urgency to address these challenges is evident considering West Africa's coastal regions drive at least 56% of the region's economic activity and accommodate one-third of its population, as outlined in 2019 World Bank study. Despite mounting needs, wealthier nations are failing to fulfill commitments to provide $100 billion annually to support poorer countries in adapting to the adverse impacts of climate change, including rising sea levels.
Le mur là, il faut qu'on mette les sacs là-bas. Si on ne met pas là.
Well, that's all in this edition of the Bulletin. Stay tuned to News 9 for further updates.
News 9 big coverage of 5 assembly polls. Mandate 2023.